Hello, everybody. Welcome to ReelQuick, episode 54. This will be our weekly movie review. So if you saw on Twitter, we're doing Real Steel this week. So ReelQuick doing Real Steel. Always fun. Shout out Stefan Johnson. I asked for a really shitty movie last week. Didn't get a shitty movie because I honestly think Real Steel is like fairly good, or if not fairly good, I think you all think it's average. So I'll take that, in my opinion, it's just a fun movie. That's not too bad. I did take a couple notes on this movie. This will be like full spoilers. So I just wanted to make note of the few notes that I took. Question number one for you all. How many movies does Hugh Jackman start as a drunk? I don't have the answer, but
I mean,
no. This is like this Logan. Isn't he a drunk in like he
turns out to be a drunk in Prisoners, but he doesn't start as a drunk.
I guess he doesn't start as one, but I think every single Wolverine, he's like a drunk at the start. I think he's a drunk at the start. I think Bad Education, he's maybe not a drunk, but just a really bad person. I think
he's a bad person.
What was that movie last year that he was really shit in?
The Sun.
The Sun.
No, not The Sun. I didn't see The Sun. Last year, it was like, or maybe it was 2 years ago. It was like a streaming release on HBO Max. I will
Les Mis.
No, Jackman, HBO Max movie. Reminiscence. Did anyone?
Oh yeah.
Never even heard.
Bad movie. He was really bad in it, but I think he was a drunk in that too, maybe. But it's just, I feel like that's just kind of his thing now, is starting off as a drunk and then being a great person. I love the idea in this movie that robots get old. So like at one point they rent a robot who was like prime back in his heyday or whatever, and it's like it's a robot, just like replace its parts, and I'm sure it's just as good now.
You want to run down a little synopsis?
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. I
just first thing on his mind is Hugh Jackman always drunk.
So Charlie Kenton, played by Hugh Jackman, used to be a prize fighter, but lost his chance to win a title when heavy, towering robots took over the boxing ring. Now working as a small-time promoter, Charlie pieces together scrap metal into low-end fights, barely earning enough to make it from one underground venue to the next. After hitting rock bottom, Charlie reluctantly teams with his estranged son, Max, played by Dakota Goyo, to build and train a championship robot for a last shot at redemption. This has like a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7 out of 10 on IMDb. I think like a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, somewhere around there. 3.2. Yeah, it's a fine movie. It's a fun time. I wish I could talk about it more. My opinion, it's nothing special, straightforward. But you get a little bit of heart to heart with Hugh Jackman and this kid that's supposed to be his son. You get a pretty basic, endearing boxing story of obviously the shit boxer raises to be the champ. It's basically Rocky, but with robots. I liked it. I enjoy it. I'm sorry I can't stay for super long. Sorry to Tyler for making him edit me out, but love you all. Have a great day. I have to be somewhere on Mother's Day. That's my fault. I didn't realize at 11:30 I had to be somewhere, and I completely forgot. People have to start getting ready before things. So now that we're done with my rant, also this movie has Eminem "Till I Collapse" and that shit bangs. So
it does.
five more points for me. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Bye,
Sorry. Bye. Great movie. 70 out of 100.
Well, that'll do it for ReelQuick episode 15. I'm just kidding.
That's it.
So yeah, like Cam was saying, this is literally not even just Rocky, but change the script a bit. It's literally just Rocky to a T. What's funny is on the IMDb fun facts, one of it says this film is based on the short story called Steel from 1956, and I feel like they only shoehorn that in to be look, the short story was before Rocky, so we're not copying Rocky. It's literally just, even the very final fight where they loses the fight, but it's we don't care anyways. We're all happy. You're the people's champ.
Yeah, that was very Creed ending, where Max Kellerman ends with he may have lost the fight, but he won the people over or some shit like that.
So for the announcers in this movie were just so savage. How they're just just go straight up to the winners. How do you feel to be just an embarrassing loser? And they had no holds barred. But this movie I think it was a fine movie. I give it a 2.5, but that wasn't some movies I'll give a 2.5 to and have ill will behind it. I'm this wasn't good, 2.5, whereas this is just middle of the road 2.5. I thought I thought the kid honestly did really good. I thought he did quite good, especially at the end. I thought he really sold the emotional scenes. Dakota Goyo, shout out. I don't know if you've been in anything else since. But Hugh Jackman, I thought this was like a weird role for him. And Evangeline Lilly specifically, I don't know if she was weird or if it was just like how they used her, but like when they kept cutting to her, like in like the fights, I always thought it just felt so out of place. Like her just character was so odd and so weird, and her emotion just didn't work for me. But yeah, like it was fine. It was whatever. One thing I thought was funny is one of the sponsors of the final fight in the arena is Xbox 720, which is just like a throwback to I remember like being a video gamer as a kid and remembering when like the Xbox 360 was out and they're like, oh, the next one's going to be called the 720 before the one came out. So I was like, funny that they actually threw that in as one of the sponsors in here. But I thought this movie was very middle of the road and fine. I thought the visual effects actually looked like crazy good for 2011. Like I was very impressed by that. But yeah, I just thought it was all weird. One thing I was going to ask, I wish Cam was here for this. So basically the thing that sets this plot in motion is like he gets money for his first robot by his ex-wife. Like he gets $50,000 because she's from a rich family. So she pays him basically $50,000 to get full custody of their kid. But he gets one last summer with the kid to kind of like right his wrongs. But then right after that, like when he gets the kid for the summer, immediately he's like, no, I'm leaving. Like, I don't want you to come with me. I don't want anything to do with you. So like if he didn't want to be with the kid, why didn't he just say like, $100,000 and you get the kid immediately? Like I don't need the summer for the kid. Like I don't get why he like bargained with the chip of like
because the uncle didn't want to bring the kid to Italy with him. He wanted like the time.
Oh, okay, that was it. Okay.
So Hugh Jackman was like,
I was confused.
Money and
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, why did he want this final summer?
When he started speaking about negotiation was on the courthouse or whatever, he went, but we're going to Italy in a few weeks and we don't want it. And then he was like,
okay,
for the summer.
Okay. Now that's all clicking now. But yeah. What a move to just sell your kid's custody for $50,000.
Just sell your kid. I love that they make a joke about that at the end. Like, yeah, you sold me, by the way. Don't forget that. But no, my thoughts are like right in line with yours, Tyler. Like I give it a 3 out of 5, which I think this is just most aggressively average movie ever. Like it didn't do anything to like make me ever want to like rewatch it, but I have no ill will to it. I think it's so formulaic, and I wasn't even thinking about Rocky when I was watching this movie, so maybe that's why it like came off formulaic, because like in the back of my head I had something going on, but like you knew how this movie was going to go. Relationship starts off shitty, they slowly form, there's the end like moment of like realization and like enthusiasm, and like they're friendly now. I do like their relationship between Hugh Jackman and what's the kid's name, Dakota
Goyo.
Okay,
I think his name's
like
Max Kenton in the movie.
Yeah. I thought their relationship was like genuinely like believable, or at least like believable to the extent that it had to be for this movie. Because like I don't think this movie was going for anything deeper than just like a relatively heartfelt father estranged son moment. I agree with you on the visual effects. I do think the fights look really cool. I don't think the choreography was that great. I think it was just like, maybe it's just because they're robots, but like I don't know, they weren't doing anything that like was like, oh, that's sick. But no, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I'm getting a lot of letterboxed comments like, this movie's 5 stars.
Is there like a cult following people who grew up around that area?
Yeah, I didn't realize people like loved this movie.
I'd never heard of it before. Honestly.
Yeah, I never heard of it either. And then the one thing that like, I don't know if this bothered me or if I maybe think this would have elevated the movie, but there was no primary villain. Like obviously there was like the rancher at the beginning, and then he comes in. Yeah, and then Zeus, but like none of them felt like overly threatening. And you kind of like figured like while you're watching this movie, like, okay, somehow everything's just gonna like miraculously solve itself. Like even the scene where the rancher like beats the shit out of Hugh Jackman, even there I was like, okay, that's such a very cliche thing to do, like where he just gets his ass kicked by the bad guy and then like his son is left there to like cry over him. But like, yeah, again, I don't think that like dampened the movie, because I don't think that was the point of the movie. I think the point of the movie was just the father-son relationship. But I don't know, I would have liked like something a little more threatening, if that makes sense. And that's about the end of my rant.
I'm probably like same as both of you. I thought it was fine, just average. I'll give it a 2.5. I think it's serviceable, but it plays it extremely safe as predicted. But it is serviceable. There is entertaining moments. I do think the effects were actually surprisingly quite good, like Tyler said. But I can't say I enjoyed the fight sequence as a whole deal. I thought they were quite tedious. I also, again, classic me thing to say, I do think this was too long for what it needed to be. And I think with a plot that is so surface level and formulaic, we don't really need to stretch out this long. But on the contrary, I thought some of the performances were good. What's her name, Tyler? Evangeline Lilly? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the sequences with her, man, was so cringe in my eyes. You know, when they're having the fights and it cuts over to her and she's like screaming. Weird, didn't like that at all. Her kind of plot points were a little bit odd. Hugh Jackman was fine. The kid as an actor was fine. Did you guys like the dancing scene when he starts dancing? Because I
kind of
That was
did.
cute
Yeah.
and fun.
yeah, I'm kind of like, as soon as I came on, I called down and I was like, I can't watch that.
It worked in this movie, like because, like you said, this movie just didn't take itself too seriously. So like it kind of worked. Also, it's just while we're like talking about Evangeline Lilly, she's got the weirdest filmography ever. Like she was obviously
I can't say anything she's been in. Well,
I mean, she was in Lost. Obviously, I feel like after Lost, she was in The Hobbit. She was in obviously Ant-Man, Real Steel. She was like a very small role in The Hurt Locker, and then she has like some like smaller like low budget shit films here and there. But I feel like she just pops up every so often. And considering like the cast of Lost, she was kind of the one that everyone thought would like go on to like have like a huge career. Yeah, she was easily like the best in Lost, probably.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, ever since Lost, she's just had such an interesting career.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I can definitely see why people like it. And like George said, it's kind of weird because I actually know, well, from George's review and stuff, I'm assuming this is like got like a bit of a cult following. People who grew up around that time.
I guess.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. It is that sort of film. But I think it's harmless. You know, I think it's, again, it doesn't really do anything that it doesn't overdo anything. Like George said, it knows exactly what it wants to be and needs to be, which is this serviceable, formulaic, sports-ish movie that kind of does the usual trajectory that we always see, you know, down in dumps, gets to the best, whatever. Every plot point in this, you will be able to identify and you'll be able to say, okay, this is what's going to happen next. Which, if anything, is an accomplishment that there is scenes that you enjoy, and that there is a reason that formula in sports movies has been used so many times because it does work.
Yeah.
I don't really like robot films. You know, like it's kind of like a Transformers. I don't, you know, like watching two robots have a fight. I just don't really care about it. You know what I mean? They weren't that entertaining for me. The parts that I enjoyed the most were actually just some of the conversations and stuff I thought were kind of cool, and the kind of watching the Hugh Jackman and the son kind of grow together and whatever, and build their relationship. But the actual action scenes, even though they looked good and the special effects were surprisingly well done, I was kind of bored by the choreography and stuff like that. I just I don't really care for it much. But again, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It kind of, it's a formulaic sports movie, and that's what you're going to get. It doesn't surprise you with anything. It doesn't try anything it needs to do.
I wish this movie, and this movie is already, it's like a little over 2 hours, I think, which I think is already too long for this kind of movie. Yeah. But I do wish, like, the movie just kind of cuts after like that final like fight. I wish we had like another like 15-20 minutes just to see like, okay, does Hugh Jackman hold on to his son, or does he actually let him go? Like, does the aunt and the uncle have like a moment of realization where it's like, okay, maybe Hugh Jackman is fit to take care of this child, and like we'll reserve like partial custody or something. Like, I think that would have like not wrapped up like that like relationship better, but I just feel like it would have like concluded the movie like a little bit better, because I feel like that's where they were like headed towards. And I still think, even what I'm saying, I still think would have been very formulaic. I feel like it would have just like made sense in this kind of movie. Like what happens? Like, the movie just cuts after the final fight. Like, I want to know, like, does he stay with Hugh Jackman, or does he go back to his aunt and uncle?
Have you guys seen Big Daddy, the Adam Sandler one?
Yeah.
It's kind of very similar to that.
Yeah, super.
Although Big Daddy is better.
And funnier. But I think like this movie, like it's obviously like, I can totally see why so many people hold it so fondly, because like if I saw this as a kid, I'm sure I would have loved it. But the first half of this movie was campy, but then the second half just became so camp. Like the final fight, like, because like we talked about, like the announcers were so over the top, and then like every time they cut to Evangeline Lilly, it wasn't just her, it was like everyone in the crowd was like shadow boxing along with Hugh Jackman. And I was like, why is everyone like no one goes to a real boxing match or UFC match in real life and is like shadow boxing in the crowd. To be fair,
we are watching like big robots fight.
Yeah, that's fair. But
also, oh my, one thing that I don't know if I didn't like it or if it just made me feel weird. Like I cringed a little bit. Like Evangeline Lilly crying like during like the entire fight. Like she was crying the entire time.
Yeah, which weirdly enough, like shout out to the kid. I thought he was the only cry that was like convincing. I thought he was the only one that was like the perfect amount of emotion.
Yeah,
she was just way over the top crying.
She was you would have thought like Hugh Jackman got stabbed or something the way she was crying.
Yeah, and then the icing on the cake of the campiness for the final scene is when like Tak Mashido just like punches his like monitor in front of him and it just shatters.
That was kind of dope. That was kind of sick.
It was kind of dope. But like the production of this movie was like low key stacked because the musical score was Danny Elfman, executive produced by both Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis, directed by Sean Levy. So like there's a big names attached to this, which you can kind of tell like for like a throwaway movie like Real Steel in terms of like, I mean, this has cultural relevance in terms of people who still like love it from when they were a kid, but it really hasn't stayed in pop culture, but like it still looks great, I think. Like, not really.
I didn't know big budget was it?
Wow. Honestly, I didn't even realize up until this exact moment that Sean Levy directed this film. And now it kind of makes sense given his filmography. What else has he done? Free Guy.
Free Guy sucks.
Budget was 110 million, which I guess in 2011. So that's pretty big for 2011.
Like now this movie makes a little more sense now that I know who actually directed it. Because like this is a very he did Free Guy. He did Night at the Museums. He did The Adam Project.
Fantastical movies. So.
Yeah,
he did
he's just a big fan.
Internship with Vince Vaughn and Wilson. Yeah, which can I just say, I think it's very funny.
I haven't seen that movie in forever. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Cheaper by the dozen.
The Pink Panther, Date Night.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
God, he's got such an interesting film. This makes sense now. Now I feel stupid. I don't know how I didn't like peep that during the opening credits.
Does it make sense though? Because it
does. Because like he's never been a filmmaker that's like taken himself seriously. Like he's genuinely a filmmaker that just wants to entertain the audience. He doesn't give a shit about like what the critics are going to say about his film.
Failed with Free Guy, didn't they?
Stop. Free Guy is
Free Guy was good.
Free Guy is good. Everyone loves Free Guy except you, Seth.
Hey, it's not exactly high rated.
One of his first films was Big Fat Liar, which I loved as a kid.
Great movie. Yeah, like he's never taken himself seriously. So now this kind of makes sense. Now I feel bad for giving this movie a 3 out of 5, but I'm going to keep it at a 3 out of 5.
I don't.
Do we have any other thoughts?
No, it was like I get why people like it. I think it's one of those. If you grew up around that time and you watch this, it kind of has that capture imagination, that underdog feel. You know, when I was growing up, I watched Big Daddy, for example, being that kind of similar story.
Big Daddy.
And now I really like that film, so I kind of see, and then Rocky, etc. So I get it. For me, played it a little bit too safe, but it also had its nice moments.
Yeah,
2.5 for me, just perfectly down the middle, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I hate criticizing Real Steel, considering how much I like praise Pacific Rim when like I don't know. It's like they're not that much different in films, but I don't know. Sometimes these like campy, no take risks movies, like sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. But yeah, this one was kind of just right down the middle. I definitely enjoyed my time. I definitely enjoyed the relationships in this movie. Robots fighting. It's like, how can you not be at least a little bit entertained, which I was. So it's a 3 out of 5 for me. So I apologize to the cult followers.
Yeah, I don't really have any fun facts. It's just basically, one is that the robots weren't just CGI. Every single robot in the movie was made practically as well. Not saying all the fight scenes were practical, but they had a lot of shots where they had over 20 puppeteers working these massive recreated practical robots. And then another one is, like George mentioned, that Evangeline Lilly was in Hurt Locker. And so she's been in 4 movies with Anthony Mackie. She's been in The Hurt Locker. She's been in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And then she's been in Real Steel. So 4 movies with Anthony Mackie and Evangeline Lilly, which is just like a pairing that you just wouldn't think would be in a bunch of movies together.
But they've had no interactions with each other in any of the movies.
I think you're actually right. They've been in 4 movies together. They've never directly talked to each other.
Never spoken a word to each other. Anthony Mackie doesn't even know who Evangeline Lilly is.
He was so minor in this movie. This must have been early in his filmography, but I guess it was after Hurt Locker. But still, like, he still looked like he had fun here.
Yeah, he's having a good time.
But like, I don't know, Hugh Jackman just felt so out of place here. I wonder, like, that's why the first thing that came to mind is like, if I was interviewing Hugh Jackman, I'd want to be like, what movie in your filmography stands out as like one that you're just like look back on and you're like, why did I do that movie? And I feel like, not saying this is by far not his worst movie, but I feel like it's one of the oddest.
I don't think he would say, because like, again, just like Sean Levy, I feel like Hugh Jackman's just having a good time. Like, how can you not have a good time making this movie? So I feel like he'd look back on it and be like, yeah, maybe it wasn't like my most critically successful movie, but I had a blast making it. So like, whatever.
Yeah, just shadow boxing.
Not his worst.
Yeah, just shadow boxing in the corner, whatever. Fuck it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll wrap up there, I guess. Cam, we love you. I hope you and Emma are having a fantastic Mother's Day. Emma, happy Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to all of our moms out there. Again, shout out to, I believe it was Stefan, one of our patrons that recommended Real Steel. So shout out Stefan for the movie recommendation. All of our patrons, keep an eye out for next week's post so you guys can let us know what you want us to watch. And like Cam said on our, I believe he said yesterday on our draft episode, if we haven't picked one of your suggestions, please don't hesitate to like reach out to us and let us know. We want to make sure we are hitting everyone. Obviously, that we have a good amount of patrons in the tiers that are allowed to recommend stuff. So we will eventually get to you. But if you're like dying for us to watch one movie, we'll pick it. So just, hit us up on Discord or DM us on Instagram or whatever. That wraps up episode 54. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you guys next week.